What is the worst thing you've seen a little child do? A neighbor's kid would mercilessly throw their two cats into the pool. The cats would fight and scratch, but that didn't stop the boy from flinging the cats repeatedly into the pool and forcing them to swim or drown. His father finally broke him of this behavior by throwing the kid in the pool and clothes and all, every time he caught his son torturing the cats. My grandpa did this to me when I was mean to the pets at a young age. Proud to say I'm much nicer to my pets now. My neighbor's kid was burning ants to death with a magnifying glass. After a while he decided that ants were too boring, so he tried to hold down his cat to burn it with the magnifying glass. Let's just say the cat fucked the kid up. Saw a young girl enter a store with her mom and throw a fit when she couldn't get a Barbie doll. Her wailing caused a group of people to show up and things blew up when the girl decided to say that the woman was not her mom. Police were called. I, being a young stalker at the end of my shift, told my manager that the girl came in with the woman and promptly clocked out. Long story short, told to me by the manager the next day, the police sorted the situation and they left the property a few hours later. That's crazy. I've seen a couple of other stories in this thread where the kid pretended to be kidnapped. I think they're using the whole stranger danger thing to their advantage because they know someone is going to take them seriously. My sister did this and almost got my dad shot because she wanted another cookie sample from Publix. Edit, for all who are asking, yes, this is America. Best way to handle this if it happens more than once and the child doesn't stop. Nope, this isn't my kid. Bye. And then what happens is that everyone realizes that they are your kid when they chase after you and they realize that pulling that stunt won't work anymore. I mean, it's a little cruel, but the best way to both cover your ass and handle the child's reaction. Because we're at a point where the child will probably get you arrested at some point if they're willing to do this more than once or twice. When I was an English teacher in China, I had a 7-year-old student called Prince. That was not just his chosen English name, which can be anything from Sally or Ben, to Superman or JJ Kangaroo, but also a direct translation of his Chinese name, which gives you all the information you need about this child's idea of his station in life and how he was treated by his parents. This kid yelled at the other kids in me on a daily basis, threw fists if anyone got too close, and once threw a, luckily light plastic, chair across the classroom at me. But the worst of all was the time that this kid screamed so much his throat started bleeding. He had to go to hospital and couldn't speak for a few days, which was a blessing, following which I was called into my boss's office and told that his parents were blaming me for it. I told her how absolutely ridiculous that was and made it very clear that when the term rolled over I would not be teaching any class which he was in. Remember that scene in Game of Thrones where Gregor Clegane fights Oberyn Martell and pushes his eyes in to blow his head up? My mother works in a kindergarten where they accept special needs kids too. She told me one day one of the more special kids got another kid on the ground and started pressing his eyes in just like in the show. All the other kids started screaming in terror, not to mention the poor victim, and the attending adult couldn't even get him off. He was gripping his victim so hard. One of the other kids had to run for help and they could finally get him off. Luckily the kid didn't suffer any lasting harm. In my kindergarten class, this big kid punched a girl in the face and then slammed her face into a desk because she stole my seat. BTW, it wasn't his seat and he never sat there. This reminds me of a kid I was in preschool with. Dustin. Dustin was that slightly taller, heavier, so chubby he squinted kid. He had a nasty habit of biting the other kids and laughing while they cried. Eddie. Eddie was a scrawny little Hispanic boy who insisted on being the pink Power Ranger when we played pretend. Eddie was energetic and could run circles around us other kids. And one day, Dustin bit Eddie. Instead of crying and running off to tell the teacher, Eddie, without missing a beat, bit Dustin back. Dustin started screaming and blubbering, running off to tell the teacher. Both received a timeout, and Dustin never bit another kid. I aspire to raise my kids to be like Eddie. I was at Boston Market. This kid smacked his mom's butt. She said, "No," then he grabbed her skirt and in one move pulled it down to her ankles. She was in shock. The store was packed too. She couldn't get her clothes up fast enough. I admired her for not running out the store though. She got her chicken and left fuming. I saw a woman at Kroger deflect her toddler son as he was trying to get her tits out. He was yanking her top up and trying to stick his hands down her shirt. She was cool as a cucumber, all defense and business. Little kids. All teeth and claws and a daily reminder that we are animals. I do a lot of secure transports between hospitals and psych facilities. I once transported an 8-year-old kid who flushed his parents' insulin because he knew they needed it to live. Are the parents okay? They were fine. They were his foster folks and they put in for a different rotation at the time of this incident. When I shut the ambulance doors, it was the last they saw of him. Caught a little bastard with a pair of scissors about to try to cut my cat's tail off. Edit. So, just to clarify, the child was a 5-year-old girl. When my cousin was about 4 years old, caught him spraying hairspray into the furnace flames trying to blow the house up. Good times. Toss a bucket of frogs onto the hot grills of a fire. He was 9 at the time. My neighbor's kid who was about 10 or 11 used to lure a stray dog up to his porch, then would tie the dog down and stick a firecracker in the dog's butt and light it on fire. The screaming from the dog was horrible. We called the police and reported the kid like 1,000 times. All the neighbors hated that boy and complained to his parents. His mom was always drugged out and his dad was a drunk and said, "Well, at least he isn't a terrorist in blowing up buildings." I have 2 aunts on mom's side. First aunt lost her home in a flood, and they moved into second aunt's home for about 3 months. First aunt's family had a teacup poodle. Second aunt's son, 10 years old, spent most of that 3-month period trying to kill their dog with Rube Goldberg machines. At first it was a that was weird situation, which quickly became, this child is psychotic. He started off with making an elaborate bottle rocket cannon. Then threw the dog into the pool and threw cinder blocks at it, tried repeatedly to cram it into cardboard boxes, throwing tools and hardware at it from the second-story balcony. It was scary. I think a few months after first aunt's family moved out, the kid hit his little brother in the head with a shovel and split his scalp open. They started therapy after that one. Oh my. What happened then? I mean later in his life. He went to therapy for years. He's my cousin and by our late 20s you could see he was atypical in some respects. Turns out he's a genius. The man has like 5 or 6 degrees from respected universities, all in mathematics and engineering. A lot of my family suspects based on his erratic travel schedule he was recruited by the CIA for his brainpower. Me. It was me. This was at our first house, so I must have been between 2 to 3 at the time. We were in our driveway with one of my parents' friends. I was just playing around like usual. I had a chalk and a dark green easel in my room, which I enjoyed playing with often. So I was in the driveway milling about, when I found a piece of chalk and spotted their friend's dark green car. Toddler me saw no problems with this, so I started drawing. My mom saw what I was doing. Suddenly everyone got really upset, really fast. My mom made me drop the chalk, and my hands were completely bloody and started to hurt. I was so confused and upset, it didn't occur to me until later what happened. It wasn't chalk, it was glass. I scratched that poor guy's car up to kingdom come with glass. We still saw that friend for years afterwards, so it evidently wasn't a friendship-ruining moment. I'm sure they paid for the paint job. In another case of mistaken identity, did you know that to a child who knows nothing about cacti, certain ones look super soft and fluffy? They're not. They're absolutely not. A family with 2 quite young kids live in my neighborhood. It's a small village with just one small street where barely any cars drive, so the kids often play there. One time, I just happened to look out of the window when they were laughing and playing peacefully outside once again, when suddenly, one of the kids walked a little nearer to the street, where a weird thing was laying and stepped on it. I could just hear a little stump and a small, faint cracking sound. As the kid lifted their foot, there was a crushed baby bird laying there. I guess it had fallen out of some tree near the road, and the kid just looked at it. There was blood and just that poor little, now crushed baby bird laying on the road. I'm sure it was on purpose, though. The bird was definitely already dead before. Have you witnessed such situations? Leave a comment. And subscribe to this channel if you want to see more same videos.